What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Cover Killer Nation here with another 2011 album review for you guys. This is actually a debut. Now, I find this to be very important because back in 2005, as I've chronicled a couple different times, a debut actually won my Album of the Year award for that particular year. So these are always important just in case there's a new band out there that really just sets the world afire, especially my world. My world becomes your world since you are part of the nation. I am the Cover Killer. Something like that. The band that we're talking about today is World Under Fire with their debut album, Tactical. Is it going to be just like Munich's Conspiracy in Mind? No, it's not. This is a melodic death metal band that's been around since 2006, however, this is their debut, Tactical, here in 2011. And whenever you first take a look at this album cover, whenever you examine the song titles that are on this album as well, on this 8-track affair, 10 if you count the 2 bonus tracks that I'm going to get to a little bit later, then you really harken back to your traditional death metal stylings. And you think to yourself, hey, this actually has the potential to be, well, a pretty decent experience. I think of bands such as Anata and Vehemence whenever I consider some of the song titles, look at some of the album artwork. So, hey, right there and right then and there, this looks like it's shaping up to be, well, one of those sleeper picks. But it really doesn't deliver. Whenever you start listening to the album, it just starts to feel a little bit generic at some points, and the places where it feels as though it's not generic, instead it feels that this band is attempting to do something else, and that's they're attempting to cram in enough diversity in there to kind of keep the traditional metal fan at least semi-involved in this album, where they're trying to harken back both some of the melodic death metal elements as well as perhaps some of the atheist stylings that you would hear on classic albums such as, well, ironically enough, Elements. The first track on Tactical is a very good example of this. There's a little bit too much generic nature to this as well. Not to mention, it really kind of bridges that gap. It leans a little bit too heavy into that whole melodic department in some particular locations, whereas in other points, it seems to really try to stay firm with the death metal, and either way, the balance on it just seems very awkward, and no matter what this band seems to really try, it just doesn't seem to hit any major buttons as anything more than just plain flat out average, as though it's an album that's there, but it really doesn't do much. And that's something that really bothers me a lot whenever I listen to this. I've listened to it now a couple of different times, and it's, you know, for 8 tracks of original material with some, you know, interesting ideas perhaps, it's really just a bothersome listen. It's something that's a very tedious listen, and for 8 tracks, that's pretty bad. And these aren't exactly long tracks either. And, you know, at some points, I'm thinking to myself, why the fuck am I doing this again? You know, do I really want to cover this album all that much? Is a debut, a good debut, even worth covering, especially whenever it's not that good? Well, I decided to do it anyways. You know why? Because I put myself through the torture, so I might as well reflect my views and my opinions, and that's what I've been doing for the past couple of minutes. I'm basically stalling at this particular point because track 9 is a Megadeth cover, Wake Up Dead. Love Megadeth. You guys all know that I love Megadeth. I'm not wearing a Megadeth shirt, but you guys know it's been chronicled. Doing a discography as we speak. But this cover, not that good. It really goes with the whole entire idea of this average. If there's a theme of this review, it's average. Everything about this is average. And this cover really is maybe average as being a little bit nice to it. It's really just not... They use their trademark style somewhat, but it's not something that works very well for Megadeth. It's not something where Megadeth is really supposed to be in this variety. And I understand that you have to do it in your own style, but there's better things that perhaps could have been accomplished, such as the Malevolent Creation cover that finishes off the album, Alliance or Hate. And this is a little bit closer to what you'd think. I'd still prefer the original, but this is a little bit better than the Wake Up Dead that we just experienced, the Megadeth cover that we just experienced on track number 9. Overall, all I can say is that this is an album where it is extreme. It's a very big struggle for me. It's something where I listen to it a couple of times, and I find myself going back trying to find something that's viable on this album. Now, the only thing that I can consider that's viable is the whole reason why I even consider this review in the first place, and that's the fact that this is a debut. Maybe this is one of those bands that we won't be talking about that great album by them until 2 to 3 records down the line. I don't know. I kind of don't think so. I think that this band's just going to kind of be there. But it's a possibility. Tactical is not the album that you really want to kind of immerse yourself in if you're looking for a potential Rookie of the Year here in the year 2011. That said, who could it be? I would have to give this album probably about a 6 out of 10, and in some ways I feel I'm being generous with that. So maybe we'll actually go with a strong 5.75 to a light 6 out of 10. I'm taking a page out of the Needle Drops book. I don't care. This album just pissed me off to the point where, meh. It really didn't piss me off, I'm just meh. Meh. Meh, 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 meh. That's the fucking theme of this, besides average, is meh. Anyways, guys, be sure to subscribe to Cover Killer Nation. You got a little taste of the rage here. Nothing full out, but, yeah. Better stuff's coming. I hope so. I hope there's better stuff coming.